The wind was cruel that morning, sharp, restless, almost aware of what was about to unfold. Vivian stood beside my father's grave, her black coat too polished, her tears too rehearsed. She didn't look like a widow, she looked like a woman waiting for her final act to begin. And I knew it, because I had written the ending she never saw coming. When Dad died, she thought she'd won. She thought the house, the cars, and the name Caldwell would all belong to her and her golden son, Dexter. But Dad had trusted me with something she could never steal, his faith. Still, I let her play her little game. Before we let Sterling rest, she said to the crowd, voice trembling with counterfeit grief, "There's something everyone deserves to know about Brooke." Every head turned. Even Aunt Greta froze, clutching her prayer book. The dirt hadn't even touched the coffin, and Vivian was already reaching for blood. "She's not his real daughter." It was like she'd rehearsed the line for months. Gasps broke through the crowd. Someone whispered my name. Someone else crossed themselves. I stood perfectly still. Let her think she'd broken me. It made what was coming sweeter. Vivian pulled out a folder. Sterling's blood type was O negative. Brooke's AB positive. It's genetically impossible. I have the medical records. Dexter smirked beside her, his hand resting on her arm like they were presenting a case in court. "Guess you're not really family after all, sis." The cruelty of it, using my father's funeral as their stage, might have crushed the old me. But not this version. The one who had spent the last 6 months preparing for this exact betrayal. Mr. Holbrook, Dad's lawyer, stepped forward before I could speak. Calm. Measured. Almost serene. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "before you continue embarrassing yourself, perhaps we should read what Sterling left in my care." Vivian's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "6 months before he passed," he continued, pulling out a manila envelope, "Sterling came to me with instructions, in case of this very performance." The crowd shifted uneasily. Vivian tried to laugh. "This is absurd." Holbrook opened the envelope and unfolded a letter written in my father's careful, deliberate hand. "To my family, if you are hearing this, it means truth has been twisted by someone I once trusted." I didn't blink. I knew every word by heart. "She may not share my blood," the letter continued, "but Brooke is my daughter in every way that matters. She is my legacy, my conscience, and the reason I still believed in goodness. As for the others." Holbrook paused, glancing at Vivian. Sterling requested this next part be played aloud. He pressed play on a small recorder. My father's voice filled the silent cemetery, deep and steady. "Vivian, if you've chosen greed over love, you'll find nothing left for you to take. The will has already been changed. The Caldwell estate, investments, and all properties belong solely to Brooke." The air cracked. Vivian's face drained of color, her perfect posture collapsing into disbelief. "That's a lie," she shrieked. He couldn't. But Holbrook raised his hand. "Your husband signed the papers himself, witnessed and notarized. You may verify the documents with the court this afternoon." For the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes, real fear, not the performative kind she used when things didn't go her way. Dexter reached for her, muttering something about lawyers and appeals, but it was useless. The game was over before they'd even begun. Aunt Greta approached me quietly, her voice trembling. "He knew what she'd try to do, didn't he?" "Yes," I whispered, watching Vivian crumble in front of everyone she'd tried to impress. "He always did." Rain began to fall, soft, steady, almost cleansing. I picked up a single white rose and laid it on my father's casket. "Thank you, Dad," I murmured. "You kept your promise." As we walked away, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The revenge was complete, and I hadn't lifted a single finger. The crowd began to disperse, whispers rippling like waves across the cemetery. "Did you know? Was that real? She planned this." Their murmurs didn't matter. For the first time in my life, I wasn't standing in my father's shadow or Vivian's cruelty, I was standing in my own peace. Vivian stumbled toward me, mascara streaked, her composure gone. "You think you've won?" she hissed, voice shaking. "This isn't over, Brooke. You'll regret humiliating me like this." I looked her straight in the eye, the same eyes that used to watch me clean the kitchen while she drank champagne in the parlor. "I didn't humiliate you," I said softly. You did that yourself. She opened her mouth to reply, but Holbrook stepped between us, handing her a second envelope. This one's for you, he said. Sterling requested it be delivered privately. She snatched it, tore it open, and scanned the letter. Her lips trembled. I watched her expression turn from rage to confusion to horror. Then she dropped the paper as if it burned. What did he write? Aunt Greta asked, voice low. I already knew. Dad's words to her had been simple. You married me for security, but you'll find none here. I've left you the one thing you gave me, emptiness. Her knees buckled. Dexter caught her, but his eyes flicked to me, uncertain now. The arrogance he wore so proudly had vanished. He looked like a child caught stealing. Holbrook placed his hand on my shoulder. Your father was proud of you, he said quietly. He wanted you to know that love doesn't end when the heart stops beating, it just finds new ways to protect us. I nodded, unable to speak. By the time the last mourner left, the clouds had broken. The late October sun peeked through, scattering gold across the wet ground. I stayed until the cemetery workers covered the grave completely. It felt final, peaceful. But my revenge, or rather, justice, wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I walked into my father's law office for the will's formal reading. Vivian and Dexter sat on one side of the long mahogany table, their lawyer whispering frantically between them. I sat on the other, calm. Holbrook cleared his throat and began reading. The entire Caldwell estate, estimated at over $12 million, was transferred solely to me, with a condition. Brooke must continue Sterling's education trust, Holbrook read, to fund the dreams of those who have none. Vivian shot me a look of disbelief. You're really going to let Charity have your father's money? I smiled. Dad's money was never the point. Her jaw tightened. Then what was the point? Watching you realize you lost everything the moment you chose cruelty over kindness. She slammed her hands on the table, the sound echoing like thunder. You'll pay for this. Holbrook didn't even blink. Actually, Mrs. Caldwell, the documents are ironclad. You signed the prenuptial agreement yourself. You walk away with nothing but personal belongings. Dexter stood, fists clenched. You can't do this. I didn't, I said simply. Dad did. Vivian's lawyer tried to calm them, but it was over. They knew it. The empire she'd tried to build on manipulation had collapsed, not because I fought back, but because she underestimated the quiet girl she'd spent years trying to erase. When the meeting ended, I stepped outside into the crisp autumn air. The city looked different, lighter somehow. I walked past the courthouse steps where my father once told me, integrity doesn't scream, Brooke. It waits. Now I understood what he meant. Revenge didn't have to be loud. It didn't need chaos or fire or screaming matches. Sometimes, it was as simple as truth standing still while lies destroyed themselves. That night, I went home, lit one of Dad's old cigars, and placed it on the porch railing the way he used to. The smoke curled into the cold sky, drifting toward the stars. For you, I whispered. Then I poured myself a cup of his favorite scotch, sat in his old chair, and finally, for the first time in years, smiled. Because the real victory wasn't that Vivian lost everything. It was that she finally knew she couldn't take me down with her. Vivian's scream tore through the cemetery as if the heavens themselves had betrayed her. She lunged toward Mr. Holbrook, clawing at the air, desperate to seize the envelope as if she could rip the truth out of existence. Give that to me, she shouted. You're lying. Sterling wouldn't, he couldn't. But the lawyer stepped back, unshaken. Mrs. Caldwell, I assure you, your husband was very clear. You were present when he first drafted his will. You may recall that after your disagreement, he requested a private revision. The murmurs grew louder. My relatives, who once whispered doubts about me, now watched her like spectators at a trial. Some shook their heads, others exchanged glances heavy with judgment. I stood still, calm, almost detached. For the first time in years, the weight she'd forced me to carry, her manipulations, her gaslighting, her quiet cruelty, began to lift. Aunt Greta approached Vivian, her tone sharp as broken glass. You should be ashamed, doing this at Sterling's funeral. I thought you had dignity, Vivian. Vivian whirled on her. Dignity? You all adored him like he was a saint. But what about me? What about what I've done for this family? Her voice cracked. But no one answered. Dexter, ever the opportunist, took a cautious step back, scanning the crowd like a rat looking for the nearest hole. He muttered, "We'll fight this. You'll see." "Mom, don't let them." But I cut him off. "You should read the rest," I said to Holbrook, my voice steady. He didn't just leave words. Holbrook nodded, pulling a smaller envelope from the folder. He handed it to me. I knew what was inside, the proof. I opened it slowly, revealing two documents. One was the final will, the other was a statement of trust. But there was something else, a letter written directly to me. "Brooke, if you're reading this, you already know the truth. You were never defined by blood, only by heart. I raised you because you taught me what love really means. Whatever they try to take from you, remember this. You already won the day you refused to become like them." The words blurred for a second as tears threatened to spill. But I didn't let them. I wanted Vivian to see what strength looked like. Vivian stumbled back, shaking her head. No, this isn't happening. He loved me." "Maybe he did once," I said softly, "before you turned that love into leverage." For a long moment, the only sound was the wind. Leaves danced across the wet grass, and the smell of rain mixed with the raw scent of earth. Mr. Holbrook closed the briefcase with a quiet snap. "I'll see to it the court receives these by morning. Brooke, we'll finalize the transfer once probate clears." "Thank you," I said, my eyes never leaving Vivian's pale, trembling figure. As the crowd dispersed, whispers followed her, pity from some, disgust from others. The woman who had thrived on appearances now had none left to maintain.
Dexter grabbed her arm, hissing under his breath, "Let's go, Mom." But she wrenched away, glaring at me through wet lashes. "You think this is over?" she spat. "You'll regret humiliating me." I smiled faintly. "I don't think so. You did that all by yourself." When they finally drove off, tires splattering mud across the cemetery road, I turned back to Dad's grave. The rain had turned the dirt darker, richer, as if the earth itself wanted to hold him close. I placed my hand on the cold stone and whispered, "You can rest now." Justice came on time. Behind me, Aunt Greta lingered, her voice soft. "He'd be proud of you, Brooke." "I know," I said, watching the horizon where the clouds were parting. "Because he taught me the best revenge isn't destruction, it's peace." I walked away without looking back, leaving the storm, and the lies, buried with the dead.